Today I'm going to be explaining the team styles in GSC overused. So today I'm going to be going over two different pages on my browser here. I'm going to be going over the sample teams, which were last updated in 2023. So they're not exactly concurrent, but in the last 3 years the metagame hasn't changed all that much, especially because Gen 2 is such an old metagame. But then I'm going to be going over the latest tournament in SPL, which if you don't know what SPL is, that's fine. It stands for Smogon Premier League, which is the main format for tournaments in singles competitive Pokemon. So there I'll find some more modern teams from 2026 and explain them too. But today I'm mainly going to be going through these sample teams and tournament teams instead of teams of my own to just explain more of the team styles in Gen 2 in case you're interested in getting into Gen 2 but you don't know where to start, or in case you're just wondering what the main team styles are in Gen 2. So starting off with the team styles and the sample teams here, I'm going to be going over these offense teams. Excuse me. So with these offense teams, something you're going to notice on every offense team is if you go through, you'll see what Pokemon are on every single team is Snorlax. Snorlax is used in almost every single team in GSC because it is the best Pokemon. It has, I think, a 98% usage rate. In my personal opinion, and the opinions of many, is it's very stupid not to use Snorlax. And not using Snorlax is basically giving your opponent a free win, because anyone who's good at all at GSC is not going to lose to a team without Snorlax unless your opponent gets very lucky. And then the next Pokemon you'll see that's on every single offense team here is Cloyster. Cloyster is the number 3 most used Pokemon in Generation 2. And Cloyster is just the best Spikes user because of its traits. So Cloyster is a better Spikes user than Fortress because in Generation 2 there is no Sandstorm. So the ability of being Sandstorm resistant doesn't apply in Gen 2. Cloyster also has a decent speed stat. It's faster than a lot of Pokemon in Generation 2 because it's a slow metagame. Cloyster also has the access to Stab Surf and Stab Ice Beam, which are both very useful. Stab Surf can hit Pokemon 3 times super effective, such as Golem, who's a popular rapid spinner, and Pokemon such as Rhydon. It can hit Steelix very hard because Steelix is only 2 times weak to water, but Steelix has an abysmal special defense stat. So Cloyster is a very good Pokemon because it's not only better, but it can hit a lot of defensive Pokemon hard with Surf, because a lot of the good defensive Pokemon in the tier happen to be ground and steel types, because those are types that usually do better into Snorlax. Another useful trait that Cloyster has in its arsenal is Explosion. Explosion is a great move as you can take out other Pokemon, especially if it's late in the game and you already got Spikes up. Another thing you'll notice is the second most used Pokemon to Snorlax here, I didn't exactly go in order, is Zapdos. Zapdos is practically all these offense teams besides one. And if you look at some of these Zapdos sets, you'll find 2 different types of sets. This set is the most standard set of Rest, Sleep Talk, Thunder, and then some sort of hidden power. In Generation 2, Zapdos, when using Rest, you can use Sleep Talk, and when you use Sleep Talk, you can call Rest and heal back up, which are in other gens after Generation 2. Another set you'll see on Zapdos, I'm trying to find one with the offensive set. Here's an offensive set. So on the offensive sets that don't have Rest, you'll usually see Thunderbolt instead of Thunder because Thunderbolt's more accurate. And then Hidden Power Water, you won't always see on the offensive set, but you're more likely to see Hidden Power Water on an offensive set than a defensive set. Whirlwind is great because Whirlwind can phase Pokemon into Spikes damage if you have Spikes up with Cloyster. And another good thing is the surprise factor from Whirlwind. You may switch in a Pokemon like Snorlax or something to counter Zapdos and then get surprised when you're phased out with Whirlwind there. Another Pokemon that's super prominent is Golem. Golem is on a lot of these teams as a rapid spinner. I've had videos where I've discussed Golem in the past, but if you haven't seen those, I'll just briefly go over. Golem is such a great rapid spinner because of many factors. One of those factors being Golem is very good into Snorlax because it has a pretty high defensive stat and it can roar it out or hit it pretty hard with Earthquake. Another good thing Golem has is a good example here with Gengar is that because there's no abilities in Generation 2, you can use Earthquake and take out Gengar. Gengar a lot of the times will switch in on your Golem to try to block Rapid Spin and will be taken out with one hit, which makes Golem one of the best, if not the best, Rapid Spinner in the entire tier. Some other Pokemon you'll see that are very common is Executor. Executor a lot of the times is running either Sleep Powder or Stun Spore to get a status off, and then Psychic, Giga Drain, and Explosion are pretty standard for the last three moves. Sometimes you'll see them switch up a little bit where instead of Giga Drain, you might have a move like Leech Seed or Stun Spore on the same set, but that's pretty standard. Psychic can hit Gengar and other Pokemon very hard. Giga Drain to hit water such as Cloyster or Vaporeon. Explosion is good for really any reason. Explosion on most Pokemon that are able to have it is good because Explosion halves your opponent's defense, which just makes Explosion super useful. Another Pokemon you'll see that's a little more uncommon, but that I personally really love is Marowak. So this Marowak set is Swords Dance, 3 attacks. Sometimes you'll see Sleep Talk Marowak with Rest, Sleep Talk, Earthquake, and Ancient Power. I've used that set before. And here on this team, you'll see Starmie. Starmie's another popular Rapid Spinner. The perk of using Starmie over something like Golem is Starmie's extremely fast and more offensive, and can spread status with Thunder Wave. So now let's get into some more niche picks. Moltres isn't used a lot, but I thought I'd go over it here. This set has Charcoal, which raises the damage of Fire-type moves, Sunny Day, Fire Blast, and then Rest and Sleep Talk. The thing with Moltres is Moltres isn't super good in Generation 2, but it's a very good surprise pick. I've personally lost games because they'll have a Moltres in the back that I won't be aware of, and then they switch it in, get a Sunny Day up as they switch out, and then Fire Blast with Charcoal and a Sunny Day boost can break through my team. So I've had troubles with that in the past. Here's a team style that I don't necessarily personally agree with. It's called Spikeless Offense. If you've seen my videos in the past, you probably know my opinion on this. But I believe not having spike support is a huge detriment in Gen 2. And while you can win without spikes, it's really recommended to use spikes because having spikes up means that every time Pokemon are switching in, they're taking passive damage. Not having access to that is a pretty big detriment to where, in my personal opinion, I think having teams without spikes is very hard to win with. Not that you can't win with it. I'm not saying that it's like, especially with these sample teams. These were made by some pretty high level players, but I personally don't super agree with it. Here's an interesting team with Agility Pass. How this team works is it's a hyper offense team where you try a Spore, put a Pokemon to sleep, set up spikes, Baton Pass. See, this was with the spikeless offense teams, but yet it has spikes. That's pretty ironic. Probably just put in the wrong category. So you have Agility Pass, Swords Dance, and then basically you're going to try to pass Speed Boost to Pokemon like Snorlax set up with Belly Drum, or pass Swords Dance and Agility to Pokemon like Marowak and Sweep Through. So basically that's kind of a niche team. Hyper offense where you're basically just trying to, get your boost up, switch out, and try to sweep the game. This is an interesting team as it has Rhydon. Rhydon's not super popular. I've discussed that in a vid before. But the interesting thing is this has Zap Cannon, which Zap Cannon's pretty weak damage-wise, especially on Rhydon, but the ability to spread has, because if you don't know, Zap Cannon 100% of the time will paralyze your opponent, and Thunder Wave on Starmie. This is a standard paralysis with a similar team, not this exact team, but I've used a similar Belly Drum Charizard team, and that I do think is good. One of the things people don't like about Gen 2 is there's a lot of stall in the generation, which I think is a very fair criticism. But as I've shown, if you've seen my videos before, I play mainly offense, and I win or lose most games within 30 to 40 turns because I play very offensively. And if you're good at the game and you play offense, you should be able to break through stall. Obviously, if you're playing against really good opponents, they might beat you and you're going to win every game, but you definitely have the tools to break through stall. But the first thing I'm going to discuss with stall is Fortress, because a lot of stall teams will pick Fortress over Cloyster. Clearly not all, because these other stall teams have Cloyster, but Fortress plays a more defensive role with Rapid Spin. So this fortress, for example, has spikes, hidden power fire, toxic, and rapid spin. Pretty standard set spikes, rapid spin to get rid of spikes. Hidden power fire can hit other fortress or can hit other steel types like Skarmory or Steelix that might switch in on you. A second rapid spinner on the team is Tentacruel. Tentacruel is really good at countering Cloyster because not only do you have a high special defense stat, meaning you're not taking much from Surf, but you can also rapid spin off spikes and you're immune to Toxic because you're a poison type. This is a pretty interesting Skarmory with Toxic, Curse, Sleep Talk, and Rest. Usually Curse, Sleep Talk sets will run Drill Peck to do damage, but because this is a stall team, it's going to be more annoying running a Toxic set. Not Belly Drum, Curse, Snorlax is pretty standard. Honestly, on more of a stall team, I'm surprised it's not like a Flamethrower, Body Slam, Paralysis, paralyze your opponent type thing. I'll just show off one more stall team here. I really like Double Electric Course, in my personal opinion. I think Zapdos and Raikou pair very well together. As a lot of times, if you don't have a good Pokemon to switch into Zapdos, you get into Zapdos for Zapdos Wars, and those feel a lot more like a coin flip than a competitive decision. So, standard Zapdos set with Sleep Talk, and then a standard... I really like this set. This, instead of being a Rest Sleep Talk, it's a Rest Roar set. Those aren't used a ton anymore, so I really like when I do see teams with them. I think Roar Raikou is pretty decent. It's not as good as Rest Sleep Talk, but I think it definitely has a use. And now I'm going to go over some tournament games. So this tournament was from 2026, so it's modern. And there's plenty of tournament teams here. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I'm definitely going to share some of the teams that I really like personally. One of the teams that I really like personally is this team with Lead Executor here. So I'm going to go over this. I think this team's really interesting. I love Executor personally. But this is Sleep Powder, Psychic, Thief, and Explosion. I've used Thief Executor before. I think mine had Sunspore instead of Sleep Powder, but basically with Thief Lead Executor, you're in a position of offense where you're going to try to either put a Pokemon to sleep, steal a Pokemon's item, or just blow up first turn. And then this is a Curse, Body Slam, Earthquake, Self-Destruct. This is a non-standard Snorlax. It's Curse without Rest. Sleep Talk, Heracross with Mega Horn, Sleep Talk, Raikou with Crunch, and then just a standard Cloyster and a standard Golem set. But I really like this team because it does some different things from the normal metagame staples of having a Thief Executor and having a 3 attacks Snorlax there. So I really do like that team. Like I said, I'm not going over every team or we'd be here all day, but I'm just going to go over some of the teams that I like and I think are really good. For the next team I'm going to go over, just scrolling down, I really like this team here, this offensive team, with obviously just lead Cloyster, pretty standard Raikou set. But here's another one of those Curse 3 attacks Snorlax that I told you I personally like. And then this is Curse Heracross, but instead of Heracross with Seismic Toss, it has just Curse, Sleep Talk, Rest. And then obviously Machamp is pretty good at breaking through Snorlax and other more specially defensive walls. And then a Curse Explosion Steelix. I do like that team. Another team that I really like this right down here. It's kind of like a mirror matchup. The sets are slightly different, but it's like the same Pokemon on both teams, which I think is very interesting and leads to an interesting game. I'm going to go back to the M-Dragon team. Here's an example of a very stally team in case you want more examples of stall. Defense Curl instead of Curse. Defense Curl instead of Curse is because you can use Defense Curl more times than you can use Curse. And this is just a stall set. Toxic Rest. Rollout is a move that just does more damage the more you use it. And in a late game, when you've boosted up so many defensive boosts with Snorlax, you can just spam Rollout. Light Screen, Present, Heal Bell, Soft Boiled Blissey. This is like the cleric of the team. If you're wondering why Present is used, you may be confused like what Present does. And Present has a very long description of what it does, but basically it's a move that's kind of a random move, kind of like a metronome. But what it does is it'll do a damage number of 20, 40, 80, or 120 damage, and it's a normal attack, or sometimes it will heal like a 1/3 or 1/4 of HP. So it's a very random move, but Blissey doesn't have a lot of good moves to use on the offensive spectrum, so it's just a move that has a lot of PP, and on a stall team, like, you want moves that you can use a lot of times, and sometimes it can hit pretty hard. Quagsire is really good because it's a water ground type. Water ground type's only weak to grass. And then this is also defense, curl, rollout, rest. Pretty similar to the Snorlax, but it has surf. Curse, Drill Peck, Rest, Skarmory. This is the most standard Skarmory set. Standard Cloyster set. And then a Growl, Umbreon. Growl lowers your attack. Mean Look traps you, and then Rest and Sleep Talk. This is mainly as like a PP stall where you trap in a Pokemon with Mean Look, lower its attack until it's struggling. This is one of those really annoying stall teams that turns a lot of people off from the tier of Gen 2. But as you've seen when I go over the sample teams and I go over a lot of these tournament teams, stall's not near as popular as people make it out to be. It's not the most popular team style, and offense is definitely more popular. But the thing I'll say is, if you're one of those people who decides not to play Gen 2 because your reasoning is that you really don't like stall, I just lean in to argue that I've played many generations of Pokemon, and I've personally come across stall a lot more in Generation 3 or even Generation 7 with things like Mega Sceptile and Magic Guard and all that stuff than I do in Generation 2. But I hope you liked me showing off these competitive teams from the Smogon Premier League and competitive teams from the sample teams. And yeah, if you like this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy, and I really appreciate all the likes and new subscribers I've been getting. I've been getting a lot of attention here on YouTube, at least the last couple days, so I really do appreciate it. And leave comments of what you want to see next. If you want to see like certain Pokemon used in Gen 2, let me know. Or if you want to see some Gen 3 content, just let me know. Feel free to comment. I've been replying to a lot of comments today, so feel free to do that, and hope you enjoyed the video.